Hey folks, it's Chris Long here, and I got a special episode of Long Report coming your way. This week, we hit the road to White Cloud and sat down with some powerhouse voices in the conservative movement. Joining us are four amazing, inspirational conservative women who share their personal journeys and stories from Illinois to Michigan and beyond. These ladies open up about the realities of running for office, navigating the political landscapes, and fighting the crazy Democrat-supported Chinese communist-owned Goshen battery plant and standing up for conservative values in the challenging times we live in. We cover everything from political transparency to the future conservative leadership in our communities and the conservative black movement, and we even touch on abortion and Pelosi. Whether you're a political junkie or just curious about what the hell I'm talking about, or you're OTG listening to create some new lies or try to cancel culture me in this episode, packed with insights and inspiration and a whole hell of a lot of material to work with. So grab a seat and grab your popcorn, settle in, and hit the like, subscribe, and share. Roll the intro.
I'm setting my own clock.
Communist Party of China.
Red flags are everywhere.
You will be held accountable.
We're not Chinese owned.
They are not going to stop. They're not going to stop.
Oh, this is not a done deal.
The door is that way. Thank the board for bringing us together.
And now the act you've all been waiting for.
I'm asking you simply, do you have any questions about the mushrooms that I grow on my property, my marital infidelities?
I understand I don't know all the details. I don't need to.
I mean, this project is her project.
Professional picketers.
Well, and the first thing, I'm not Geraldine. If you haven't been to a county commission meeting, you should not even be speaking about what we should do and shouldn't do.
I can be a part of the meetings moving forward.
Is this your public comment period?
I'm just asking.
First of all,
You're done, Jim.
no, I have 3 minutes.
You're done. You got 3 minutes.
And if you don't like it, there's the door.
Hello and welcome to another Long Report. I'm your host, Chris Long, and here we're in White Cloud. We took the Long Report on another road trip. Last time it was to the Mecosta County Fair, and this time we're here in White Cloud with the famous bridge between Illinois and Michigan. We have Angie here as the co-host, and we also have Susan Altman from Illinois who ran for Congress. And then we have Amanda Piker, who is basically the Lori Brock of Mantino.
No, too much credit.
And then we have a very special guest because on anybody who's been on this podcast, nobody has had as many votes. Stephanie Trussell, who ran for lieutenant governor of Illinois in 2022 with 1.7 million votes. Okay, that's larger than John Molinar, larger than any of the other people I've had on the podcast or on the radio show. So that's quite impressive. I am honored to have somebody of your status on.
Well, they won with their lesser votes. I'm the biggest loser. I had so many votes, and we did in Deep Blue, Illinois. That still meant we lost. But thank you so much.
I want to talk about that because a lot of people think of Illinois as strong blue, but it was Pritzker who is the Democrat, but before there was a Republican in there in 2015. And
was he a Republican?
I don't know.
Or not?
By label only.
No,
I don't know.
Right, by label.
You
only.
guys know.
Oh, yeah,
Rounder.
He didn't vote or govern like a Republican.
Okay, so he's just a rhino?
For
Yes.
sure.
Well, if he's a rhino, then we're well aware in Mecosta County of the rhinos that exist. But before that, I think it was also a...
Blagojevich.
Blagojevich was a Democrat, but
yeah.
we had Ryan who went to jail. We have a plethora of governors that have gone to jail, Democrat and Republican.
I
think the last three.
Yeah. So when you become governor, they have you go to the jail and pick out your cell just in case. You know, chances are you will end up there. So yeah, So that's just unfortunately, and I don't know, ladies, you guys are about my age. Can we say that we've ever had a conservative Republican governor in Illinois?
Thompson?
Really? But didn't he go to work for Pritzker's transition team?
Okay.
I think he and I may be mistaken, but I don't know anybody that was consistently conservative and stayed conservative and governed that way. And you guys are so informed. Maybe I just don't. No one, comes to mind. No one gives me a tingle up my leg about that.
I mean, I always say, "Welcome to the country of Illinois." I'm originally from Pennsylvania. And I know we're a swing state, but it's a lot different down there. And when I came to Illinois, it was culture shock. The Democrats have had a lock on Illinois for 35 years. our state house is 70%, 70,
Super duper majority.
70%,
Super duper majority. Yeah.
Democrat, and then the Republicans can't get anything to come to the floor, and it's a real shame.
My state rep had a meet and greet in my town, and she basically said she didn't know who I was when I came there, and she said she looked at everyone. She said, "Well, we have the super majority, so we don't even need Republicans to show up to vote," and they brag about that.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insane. And is most of those from the Chicago area? Is that mainly where all the Democrats are?
Yeah, in Springfield.
Keep it north of I-80.
Around universities, that's any place you go. But if you look at it, it's a red state, but it's just certain pockets. And unfortunately, the pocket in the Collier County has the most population. So that's where we go wrong. But we look at the voting, who came out and voted in the last cycle when Darren Bailey and I ran. If some of those deeper in the state counties had just actually come to vote, 30% turnout, but they become complacent. They just figure, what's the point? If I vote, everybody in Chicago is going to cancel out my vote. And we need to get them excited about voting in the next cycle. And what Republicans need to do is get over that mindset that we're patriots. We show up on election day, we get our sticker and walk around and say, I voted. All I know is that the night of election, 7 minutes after the polls closed, they called it for J.B. Pritzker because he had banked enough votes. We need to realize the first day of early voting, that's election day. Because I'm just this dumb grandma driving around in my minivan, but someone needs to explain to me how we're going to make up a 6-week head start in one day.
Right.
We can't. We need to start banking our votes. And we don't want it to be election season, but we need to win some elections to turn it back to election day. But until then, we have to play by the rules that they've given us.
We have to use their stuff against them. And that's what they're doing in the Trump Force 47 is they're encouraging now the absentee and the early voting just to compete against the Democrats, because if we do election day, there's no way we can keep up.
Yeah. Right. And in addition to here, I think the apathetic voting that Stephanie had mentioned, that's the major problem that we have, because Illinoisans don't think that their vote counts.
Is that what you guys call yourself, Illinoisans?
I just heard it said like that. I like that.
I say Illinoisans.
Right. That sounds more
Illinoisans.
I heard Michiganian and now Michigander.
Okay.
And it's
Really?
like,
I
yeah.
heard
Susan
Michigander.
said it. That's
I always called it Michigander, but apparently when Lori won the award, it's Michiganian.
Okay.
We were not allowed to call it the Michigander.
It's easier, Michiganders.
I know. Michiganian sounds weird, but Illinoisian or what would you call it?
Illinoisians.
We sound kind of tropical and exotic. I love that. You like Polynesian.
Cultural appropriation,
Right.
maybe?
I love it. I'm going with that one. We got to get some T-shirts made, ladies.
Yeah.
We're Illinoisians,
Make Illinoisian.
We kind of sound like Tiger Woods. What do he call himself? Black and Asian. What do he? I'm trying to remember.
Blasian?
Blasian. So we kind of sound like, so very good.
So let's take a step back and talk more about what happened yesterday. Well, actually, for the last 3 days, you've been up here in Big Rapids?
Since Thursday night.
Yeah. So
we went right to the Republican picnic.
Yeah, you guys came to the Republican picnic. We were very grateful that you were there and seen it, and there was some drama at the end that you guys got to see.
Oh, I didn't hear about that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I missed it.
We were
Yeah,
there.
I
I think it was
missed it.
kind of inside baseball, and if you don't know what was going on, it kind of went over our heads a little bit. Well, me anyway.
Wow.
I knew what was going on.
Oh, okay. So,
And then yesterday, which was the main reason why you guys came up here, was the China Select Committee here in Green Township. They came and did like a round table thing, and you, Amanda, were one of the guest speakers at the table.
She was
representing
awesome.
Illinois.
yeah.
And so tell us more about that, and then we'll jump back into the history of how you got involved with the Goshen thing. But what was your sense of yesterday at that meeting?
I think it was very informational and educational. I learned a lot about exactly how they have crept into and infiltrated our government, essentially, and every supply chain. The supply chains speaker was very, very interesting, how she explained a lot of that.
Yep.
So, it provided for me a background of how we got here. I thought it was key when they referenced 20 years ago.
Yep.
And I remember my family, my grandpa especially, speaking out against our friendliness with China whenever, especially they started car manufacturing and sending everything overseas. My family, you know, kind of voiced opinions on that strongly, but they're not very political. You know, I just remember chatter.
Yeah.
About that.
What I find interesting is online on the Only Things Goshen page, they're all saying that there was no pro-gos invited and no pro-gos in the thing. That's not true. I saw at least 2 pro-gos there, one of them being Dominic Pace, who's trying to run for trustee of Green Township, which is ironic considering there's video of him at last year during the Goshen meetings of him saying that we need to trust our leaders and he knows nothing about the Goshen thing and he doesn't need to know anything about it because he elected officials to know those things for him and basically admitting to incompetence and not doing due diligence. And which is interesting that he's now going to run for that. I think he's just a puppet for Chapman. But anyway, him as a pro-go. And then there was Norman Radiola, who's 92 years old, owns the place in Reed City, and he was the other pro-go. He did not stand and clap. He did not recite.
He was sleeping.
He was sleeping. Yeah, I got pictures. He did not recite the national anthem, the
really?
pledge. Yeah, he did not. He just stood there. Now, he's a Korean War vet, so maybe there's some exclusion clauses for him, but I just thought it was interesting.
Well, thank him for his service,
yes.
at least, you know. But
and it's weird that he would be for Goshen considering he fought the communists in Korea in 1950s. So, yeah, anyway.
I think that they wanted an actual Goshen rep yesterday, not somebody from the town.
Yes.
And I believe that there are people that could have came in Chuck's place, but they didn't like the fact that they could be asked questions.
Correct. So for our listeners who don't know, Goshen was invited. They did not show up. There was an empty seat with a name tag that said Goshen on it, and Chuck was on vacation apparently in some of the national park, wherever it was, which is also interesting because he has the Chat with Chuck on Monday. He could do Chat with Chuck on Monday where he controls the narrative, but he couldn't do this thing where he would be asked questions and he couldn't stack the deck like he does on Chat with Chuck.
With technology, it would have been so easy for him to zoom in.
Yeah. Oh, and he's so busy on vacation, he was able to send out some press releases yesterday. But he's on vacation. They've been planning that for 7 months. He couldn't do anything, but he had time to do a press release.
And Tracy did too.
Oh, yeah.
She posted didn't she post on Only Things Goshen?
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
That's the wife?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, how did you get involved with Goshen? Well, actually, first, what do you think of Big Rapids? Was this your first time in Big Rapids?
Yes.
What is your thoughts?
I think it's beautiful.
Yeah.
And everybody, the atmosphere, people, they're very, very nice.
Yes.
Very smart people here too, who care as much about their town, their county, as much as we do in Manteno.
Yeah.
Passionate.
Yes. What I find interesting is down in Manteno, you guys don't have any pro-go people running around like we have to. But it's a good thing you didn't have to experience it. We should have sent you into the fudge store. That would have been interesting.
Well, I do like chocolate
brought
raspberry.
you in with some hidden cameras.
Is the fudge good though?
The fudge is excellent. Okay. I will always say the fudge is good and the caramel's great. The caramel was the main reason I would go in the store.
We gotta go.
I don't think she'll allow you in there.
Really?
If you wear a Biden hat, maybe she would.
Oh, well, where can one get one of those? I've never seen one.
Right.
There's a Democrat store downtown Big Rapids.
No kidding.
Yes, a Democrat headquarters.
Okay.
It's Tracy's campaign headquarters.
Okay.
Our hats say Biden on them, but they say other words.
Right, in addition to just his name. So we should wear our Trump gear and go in there. You know, we're ready to buy
get kicked out.
Even when we had like cash in hand, we want to buy a whole lot of fudge.
She won't like you.
Really? No way. Mm-hmm. Really? We have to go.
Does she have chocolate raspberry?
She does.
Uh-oh. Really?
Yeah. Okay. I'm pretty sure she does. She has chocolate everything.
Because I just paid $17 for a half a pound Amazon to me.
So let's go in there, and see what happens.
Hey, you're on your own. You should sign a waiver.
We've been warned.
You
told us that it won't be friendly, but that's okay. Hey, I was raised in the hood in Chicago. What can a little lady in the middle of this wonderful state do to me? I'm like, And I raised a teenage daughter. That's nothing scarier, than a teenage daughter. Yes. So forget about everything else. I am tough, So, yeah.
So explain how you got involved with the Goshen thing, and then how everybody here is connected. How you met Amanda, and how did this all start?
It all started, many years ago, we met on Facebook for advocacy, education, just parental rights, things that are happening in our area through mom groups.
Actually, it was a Downers Grove
group. The Facebook page. Yes, Downers Grove.
So it's 50 miles north of you.
Yes.
Right next to you, Angie. Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so that's how we connected, and we've just remained Facebook friends. And when I found out about a Chinese lithium battery company coming to our town, and at this point, I think I didn't know the name, and then I found out the name Goshen, and when I put the name, it flagged her Facebook. My post came up in her feed. She immediately messaged me and was like, we've got to get on top of this now. This is what's happening in Michigan. And was like, well, I'm working on a small protest for tomorrow. She said, create a Facebook page. Let's go. And it's been a whirlwind since.
Yeah.
So.
How did you meet Susan and Stephanie?
Angie today,
Angie's
or
the conduit
this weekend, Thursday. Yes.
Thursday.
Yeah. So, and it's amazing. Well, Angie and I are in this group of text messages. We text each other, a bunch of women, and we call the group Make Illinois Great Again. And these are phenomenal women, fired up, really dedicated. And they're not just spewing things. They actually have facts and information. Any day you go through that text message stream, you get so much information. So she inboxed me. She texted me separately and asked me to join this. And I had heard of Goshen. I wasn't really paying attention. And so I was just so excited when she sent an itinerary. She could be Julie on the Love Boat for people our age. She'd planned this whole weekend. And when I looked at the itinerary, a Republican picnic, then we're going to a barn fire, I thought I was on like a Make-A-Wish thing for kids that are dying. Because this is so exciting for me. And so, as a former candidate in Illinois, most places I go are Republican. People know me, so they're nice to me. But no one knew me at any of these things. I felt so welcome, the energy. And what I like about the fact that you have a crazy Democrat governor like
yes, we do.
But you're in a conservative area where people unapologetically wear a Trump hat, or they're just trying to get things done, and they're fighting, for where they live. And I feel so at home. And I on the way up here, I only go to like New Buffalo, maybe Michigan City, Indiana. I thought Angie was completely out of her mind that we're driving 4 hours in. I'm like, what the heck? And now I get it. It's just been one whirlwind after another. And being able to get all that information about Goshen, I took a bunch of notes. And even my friends in Illinois that are super plugged in and know everything, when I'm sending them information, they're like, what's Goshen? Even though we don't live near Manteno, but our tax dollars in Illinois went to that. And I'm going to be Goshen out. I'm going to tell everybody, you got to learn about Goshen. This is what we need to be ready for.
Because we don't have any elected leaders on our side advocating for us, other than Congressman LaHood. Even he's not even in our district.
Is your county Republican? Oh,
yes,
it is? Oh, well,
very much
okay.
so. However, the leadership in Manteno is Democrat, but they donate to the Democrats, but they lead in a very Republican way. So we've all pretty much been happy with the status quo per se, just other than small town politics. Nobody really runs against him, our mayor. But up until now, I always felt that he made the right decisions for our town. I didn't have opposition. So I feel lack of trust that I have in him now. It's sad because I trusted them. You hear rumors, you hear people who have problems, and they say this and they say that. And until I started digging in FOIAs, I didn't think a lot of it was true.
Yeah.
And just to put something into perspective, whenever Illinois had the schools were closed and the mask mandates, our school district was the first district to say that masks were optional.
Really?
Yes. In our town. And then the governor strong-armed them, and then they had to put masks back on the kids, and then the lawsuits entailed. So we were the first school district to say that the kids didn't have to wear masks. Well, that didn't last long.
What is your guys' opinions of the whole lockdown thing? How that affected you guys in Illinois?
Still have PTSD.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, my kids, it would be my son went to a private Catholic military high school in Aurora. And there was just a group of parents that were pushing back on the administration. And when it was lifted, how back in February, half the students came to school without a mask. And then principal just gave in and said, okay, no masks now.
Wow.
So, when you're paying for the education, you should have a say in what happens.
So you had a little interesting experience, I think, a year or two ago with the graduation. Who was at the graduation?
Nancy Pelosi.
Why was she there?
In the flesh.
Well,
the drunk.
Right. In the wrinkled flesh. Okay.
She is. Oh my God. I mean, I think she's half the time whenever she does her speeches, she's slurring them and her teeth are going to fall out. She can't stop.
She's permanently pickled.
Yes.
She's got a buzz on, at all times. Right. Uh-huh.
Was she drunk,
Feeling
Angie?
good.
Yes. No.
You probably couldn't get very close to her. I'm sure she had an appropriate.
She walked in front of me.
Really?
Yeah,
So does she have Secret Service?
Yes.
So, but I bet you they were taller than she was.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Go
How
ahead.
tall is she?
She's like 5'2".
Little bitty thing.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah. And then
Making
her
all that
husband's
trouble with
not
5'2".
that much taller.
Really?
Yeah.
So tell everybody what happened there.
Okay, so I got to give you a little backstory. So in February, somehow I found out that Nancy Pelosi's grandson goes to High Point University, which is a God family country school. So it's not a Hillsdale. Like Hillsdale has no Democrats there. At High Point, I would say it's about 80% conservative Republican, and Trump flags in dorms and that are not frowned upon.
Okay.
So I found this out. I get on my little group chat and with some High Point moms and dads, and I'm like, did you know that Nancy Pelosi's son? So now I'm thinking he's a Democrat, right? So I asked my daughter, I'm like, did you know Nancy Pelosi's grandson goes to High Point? She goes, yeah. Well, why didn't you tell me? Because I knew I'd get that reaction out of you. So turns out that one of the mom's daughter is friends with him. His name is Ryan. And he is a Republican.
Wow.
Wow. He's conservative.
Wow. There's
So
hope
Nancy,
for everybody.
she's got
Wow.
imagine a Christmas there.
But and she, even though she still came to his graduation, in spite of the fact him being a Republican.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I mean, she didn't like shrivel up and, you know. So I went on Facebook and I'm like, oh my gosh, Nancy Pelosi's grandson goes to High Point University and I'm going to wear a Donald Trump shirt. And so I got a lot of reactions on that, like laughing and whatever. And my daughter's like, Mom, this is my graduation. You're always making everything about politics. And I'm like, I'm not going to wear a Donald Trump shirt. She's not even going to be there. So what's the reason?
Right.
So Nancy has, I believe, 4 daughters and a son. I could be off on the number of daughters, but one daughter is Republican. And she lives in Texas and she's married and, you know, so she's the black sheep of the family.
She's normal. She's normal.
She's normal. So
correct.
So I'm thinking, okay, and I want to say, if I remember correctly, Carrie's daughter said that they're kind of estranged from the grandparents. Well, you know, you got different politics, and she's the Speaker of the House. So, so anyway, you know, I took the post down because she was extremely mad at me. So now fast forward to graduation, and the president has this big production the day before, and there's like 5,000 people there, and I'm sitting in the front row of the peon section. So
the non-VIPs. Right?
The non-VIPs. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, and I'm close to this door. You know, I'm not that far. All of a sudden, I hear somebody behind me say, Nancy Pelosi, what is she doing here? And I'm like, you know, my head swings like in what movie was that with the dog and the squirrel? So yeah. Squirrel, yeah. So I'm like, squirrel. So so I had enough time to get my camera out and I took a couple pictures, and she's like walking right past me like 2 feet. And
you didn't trip her. I'm proud of you.
Everybody says that. Did you trip
what
her?
Restraint. Bravo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, we do not condone political violence.
That wouldn't have been very bad. Right. You know, this is your chance. This is my
one and only
do I want to
chance.
go to jail and miss the graduation? Or, you know.
And the other thing is my son, it was a freshman at the time at High Point. So it's like, I got another graduation.
Right. You don't want to be barred for life.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right? Mm-hmm.
So I look at her and I'm like, hello.
That's serious consideration.
Yes. And she turned her head and she looked straight at me and said, hello. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to take a shower.
Like smiling with that fake smiling, she doesn't even know what's going on?
Yes.
Just plastered on.
Here's the best part.
Did she have a drink in her hand?
No, but she was wearing her famous blue suit. With the white shirt underneath.
Mm-hmm. Pearls and everything.
And her fake push-up bra.
Victoria's Secret.
Yeah.
Keep it a secret. We don't
want to know. So because her grandson was like behind her, you have to respect that she's there
as
being
a grandma, not as a politician. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. But my husband,
on the other hand,
bless his heart,
bless his little heart,
he says, hey, isn't that the guy with the hammer? And I'm like, oh, dear Lord.
Ouch. Oh, my gosh. We got to buy him a drink later. Who would have thought of that?
Did she hear him? That is the question.
Yes.
No, then you should have said, hammer behind you. And then the guy would have done. Her husband would have hit the deck. There's a hammer.
Well, what was great.
Everything's okay here.
Right.
So she is sitting in the front row of the peon section. She is not sitting in VIP. Oh. So she's sitting literally 10 seats down from me. Oh. So, I take my camera on my phone and I'm like going like this, looking down with my camera. And Craig's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm seeing if she's going to kneel or
during the national anthem.
Yes.
Yeah, because we have that famous picture of her, pandering with the kente cloth, whatever, and all of them on their knees. And I just wanted to see video of her getting off her knees. That's another story.
Right. Craig's like, put it away. I'm like, no, this could be worth gold.
Right. Are you kidding me? I could go viral. Come on.
I could pay for Kevin's education the rest of the year. So the Dr. Cobain acknowledged her presence, and he says every ceremony he acknowledges the veterans, and he gives them blankets, and he says, and we have some politicians here. So he said, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, former Speaker of the House, because it was Kevin McCarthy at that time. Yeah, and I was just like, oh my God, I gotta take a shower. I just said hello to Nancy Pelosi.
Oh my goodness.
And then I was like, well, in February, I got to meet Kevin McCarthy. So
I'm been cleansed. Kevin McCarthy. You've been cleansed.
I've been cleansed.
And come on, she's a fellow Catholic.
Oh, please. She's a CNO.
Although she can't take
I would have said
communion
hello, traitor.
Right.
Yeah.
Wait. She's a Catholic and she's all for the abortion stuff?
And Biden. Biden.
Well,
He's Catholic too.
The Bishop of San Francisco will not allow her to have communion anymore.
That's good.
Wait, just in San Francisco, though, she can have any other 50 states?
I'm not
49
sure.
states? Well, sound like 57 Obama said.
I've posted Biden should be in the same situation, right?
Well, I'm no longer Catholic. I was raised, I got baptized when I was, I went to Catholic school from 2nd through high school, and I got baptized in the 8th grade. So I was a good little Catholic girl, and I'm not going to pretend I know the whole thing, but I remember what it was like to take the classes. And so I don't understand how they're not being held accountable for saying that they're Catholic. If they say, I used to be Catholic, that's fine. But if you're claiming to currently be, because I remember how important abortion was to my parish. My priests, would get arrested for protesting. They were so all in for pro-life, and that was one of the main issues of being Catholics. So how did they somehow make it just weird to be pro-life and Catholic? And why aren't the officials in the church truly holding them accountable? What does the Pope have to say about this?
Well, don't even get me started about the Pope.
The American church
this is so great to have more Catholics.
Well, I'm now non-denominational. I'm not godless. I just went from Catholicism to, I'm non-denominational. But it just breaks my heart that the Catholic Church is moving away from the doctrine that, that we all knew it to be. And suddenly these politicians are allowed just to usurp what it means to be Catholic.
Yeah.
And don't forget, we're getting put on lists when we're, Vatican
like
I Catholics.
Mass.
Yeah. So that's, it's flipped. And I think they said to keep, church and state away from one another, but yet now there's all these rules, IRS rules, I think, around how they can have their not-for-profit status taken away from them.
Wow.
If they are espousing any politics in it, and they're cracking down on them more. So they're, all of the churches, not just the Catholic Church, are trying to avoid that. But also, I think they're trying to bend to appease modern day world issues. But I'm with you. We have to stick to the doctrine. I know I go to the Baptist church. They stick to their doctrine. We need to stick to our doctrine.
I don't even understand how it's really a political issue. At the end of the day, it's murder.
Right. It's just period. It's like we can dress it up and call it, it's a choice. Or they get so offended when you say it's a baby. Stop using those terms. It's a fetus. I'm like, where do babies come from? I'm just, they believe in science so much when it comes to the earth warming a million years or half a degree, but they don't believe that a baby is a baby prior to being born. And all we have to do as Christian conservatives is just ask, so when does it become a baby then? At what point is it a viable human?
Exactly.
And that's what, we just have to stick strong to that.
We're asking the same people who can't define what a woman is.
Right. When does it become a baby? And that's what I know it's a lot of times when you talk to, let's say, professional Republicans or established Republicans, they feel that that's an issue we need to ease up on. But my hero in the radio was Rush Limbaugh, and he always said, we cannot beat the Democrats at being Democrat light. We need to stick to our platform.
Yes.
We have the best platform. That's what I always say, but it's also the best kept secret. And if we think we can win votes by saying that I'm for abortion up until 12 weeks, if that's the issue that a person's voting on, they're not going to vote for you. They're still going to vote for the Democrat that thinks that it's okay to kill babies until they're crowning. So we need to be a stark difference to what they're offering and just be who we are and just trust in the Lord that we're doing the right thing. And we have to advocate from natural conception to natural death. Life matters. And that's just, if you can kill the most innocent people, how are we going to advocate to gangbangers to value life on the street? You shouldn't shoot but we're killing babies. And the most violent place for a black person is in the womb. That's when they're mostly, because we only make up as black people.
Well, Margaret Stinger, who started...
it was eugenics. She wanted to control the black population. Her biggest fear is that we would become the majority. So if we make up 13% of the population, but yet 33% of the abortions, that's disproportionately killing black people. So that's what we need to be, I care about all babies, no matter what the color is, but when they always talk about these black issues and disproportionately black people get pulled over by policemen, well, we're getting slaughtered every day. And when they put, in Chicagoland, they put abortion clinics in black neighborhoods. They target black people because I think I live near Naperville. It's a really great city. I think it's the second largest city in the United States. But they don't put an abortion
clinic. Is it
clinic.
Naperville or Naperville? I thought it was
Naperville.
I always call it Naperville.
Naper. See, you learn something new every day. But this is a great community, but they put the abortion clinic, the number one it's the second highest abortion clinic, right next to it in a town with more black and brown people, Aurora. That's where the highest abortion clinic, and same thing up north. They didn't put it in Gurnee, a really nice lily white suburb. They put it in Waukegan, where black and brown people live.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's very true.
Wow.
Look at the locations of the clinics, and you can clearly see a picture.
I've had these arguments with people that are for abortion, and they are ill-informed, and they're typically it's the bleeding heart, and they buy into the rhetoric. Although they're not Democrats, they're just this one issue voter that think it's their right, but they don't know any of the details. They don't even know who Margaret Stanger is.
But you can't. We can't say pro-choice. They're pro-abortion. Let's stop. Correct. Let's label them properly. Yeah. Words have meaning, but they almost feel like being born poor and black is such a disability that you're never overcome, that you should just be killed in the womb. Yeah. And that's what I think. My mom was driven to an abortion clinic to kill me in 1964.
Oh my God.
She's a 16-year-old orphan, and she thought she was just going out to lunch and pull up in front of an abortion clinic. And no, 1964 abortions weren't legal, but in the black community, you could find somebody to kill your baby. My mother was an orphan. Her mom had died when she was 13. She's sleeping on people's couches, ran away from Christian foster homes. She was just that kid. And I think about it, I get goosebumps every time I think about it, that she decided not to get out of the car. My dad, I loved him, and he got over it. He was a young kid. He was scared, so he drives her there. My dad is very charming. And he said, whatever, I don't know what, come on, Regina, we probably can be together if you just get rid of this, and let's whatever. And my mom never grabbed that handle And she was homeless and didn't get out of the car to kill me. She dropped out of high school, got several jobs. We had Catholic school education. We had dance lessons on Michigan Avenue. She gave us the best life. I was a baby, not a choice to her. When she got pregnant by my dad, 18 months later, he didn't bother to take her to an abortion clinic, and she gave birth to my best friend. So that's why I'm pro-life. You're going to argue with me about that I should have been killed in the womb. I wouldn't have my 5 beautiful children, 2 amazing granddaughters, if Regina, a 16-year-old homeless girl in America, decided, you know what? I'm just going to drop out of high school and get a couple jobs. And we never lived in public housing. She just worked. And that's why I tried to tell my mom, you've always been a Republican, Mom, but you just don't know it. So I'm not going to, when I was a candidate, they would tell me, don't talk about pro-life, because Republicans walk around afraid to talk about their platform. They wait for us. We're always on the defense. But I said, Democrats will beat you over the head with killing babies up until they're born. So why are we shying away from it? And when my handler would say, Stephanie, they want to talk to you, so don't talk to them about abortion, I would politely say to her, I'm going to tell my story. And if somebody wants to attack me over my story, too bad. But this is the truth. And we got to value life unapologetically.
Wow. That's an incredible story. And what I find interesting is everyone also argues about the whole Roe v. Wade case, but nobody who is or the majority of the people who argue it don't know the history of it, and they don't realize who the Roe is, the Roe is, and that was it's a fictitious name for a lady who was coerced in Texas into by these lawyers to try to do this bill. And on her deathbed, she did a confession explaining exposing it all. And it was and she never even had her own abortion.
Right. That's the point. People don't know that she gave birth to her child.
Yes.
And people don't get that. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Anything else to add with that?
Oh, well, my parents, I was conceived.
Oh, you were a bonus baby.
I was a bonus baby.
Uh-huh.
They were not married. My mom she just turned 18.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad said, so they did it. Here I am. So I could have easily been aborted myself.
Mm-hmm.
But, and my grandfather hated my dad for 30 years.
Wow.
Although he adored me, but hated my father. So I could have been in the same situation, but I think because my grandparents were very Catholic and growing up Catholic, my mom couldn't do that. But they
were old Catholics, not like not Nancy Pelosi Catholics.
No.
Or you wouldn't be sitting here.
Wow.
Right.
Bam.
Thank goodness.
Hold on.
Thank goodness. Right. Yeah.
Yep. And that was in 1968. So she got pregnant in June. They got married in September. I was born in March. Mm-hmm. So I kind of attended their wedding.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a good story.
In Illinois, what is
the state of Illinois is probably the worst in the country. Mm-hmm. You can have this procedure all the way up until, like you very notably said, until your crowning.
Oh my gosh!
It basically, and here's the problem that I have with it. So, what people don't talk about is the mother. And if they don't get enough information before they go in for a procedure like this, they can suffer. I had a friend that when I was 20 that she came in. She worked for me. I worked for a chain drugstore. She came in and said, I'm pregnant, but I'm getting an abortion. And I said, well, wait a minute. And I knew nothing about it, but I did know I was Catholic. And I said, I know in Catholicism, they've talked about you're not supposed to have those. Yeah. And she said, well, I'm going to be a teacher. And I really do want to have my life, in order. And I said, well, what about the father? Well, he said, yeah, he'd like to too. And I go, well, is anybody Catholic in his family? She goes, well, I think they are Catholic. And then the parents stepped in and I guess they talked to him and said, you may not want to do that. Well, she had the abortion. And then I went to visit her for a couple of days, because back then you kind of laid around for a few days. And then she just wasn't getting better, couldn't get out of bed. And it turned out that she had clinical depression and she actually had to be institutionalized.
Wow.
And she never recovered 100%. She was depressed for the rest of her life, never went back to school, couldn't handle it, never became a teacher. And that's the part that bothers me the most, that if you're not informed and you're making a decision like this,
Yeah.
it could affect the rest of your life.
Yeah.
She also, that whole experience allowed me to think about it. And when I was, probably about 10 years older, I became a foster parent. So I fostered 9 kids. I was here in Michigan, actually. I love Michigan. This is a beautiful area. I actually was over in Livonia and Madison Heights and Troy. And
Flatland.
And I actually, my oldest is from Pontiac, and I adopted her because her parents didn't have rights. The one thing in Michigan is I don't know if it's still in play, but there's a 3 strikes and you're outlaw. So that if you abuse a child 3 times, you're done. And if just say you don't take the necessary classes to, be rehabilitated, they won't give you your kids back. Wow. I don't know if it's like that anymore, but back in the 90s it was. And that's when I was doing the fostering. And it was, so nobody can say to me, like I was on the campaign trail as well. And, I know we have rights in this country, and I absolutely believe that everybody has a right to do. But I want to build strong families because I don't want to see any women get affected by that mental, anguish for the rest of their lives. And I think that's a lot of reason why people vote the way they vote, because maybe they've been through this and maybe they can't deal with it, right? And maybe they think, yes, it's okay. Well, it's not that. It's just that you want to prevent something like that to the mother, or even, I'm taking the kids they don't want, right? And I'm one of those people. There's thousands of us that didn't have kids. I was lucky later on in life to have, as an old mom, to have 2 kids. I didn't think I could have kids. But, I had those wonderful kids, and, a lot of families want foster and adoptive kids. So I just think that there should be more information about the other side.
Well, I also find it interesting that the Democrats pushing the abortion thing when they're the ones wanting all this high expensive government, and who pays for it? The taxpayers. So if you're killing off potential taxpayers, it doesn't make too much sense to me, but whatever.
And as pro-life people, we want to make this very important point that if you've in your situation and you've had an abortion in your past, no one is abortion shaming you. Mm-hmm. We are all dirty sinners this side of paradise, and God saves us, and you could repent from that, and he died at the cross, and the blood has already been shed for your sins. So no one's saying that. A lot of people believe if I've had an abortion, I can't be pro-life, I'm a hypocrite. Yeah. That's not the case. Right. It's just that you should be thinking, I don't want anybody to trade places with me, because that's a lie of
there's
darkness.
A lot of guilt.
Yeah, it is. And to think that you felt your only option was to kill your baby, and the lie of darkness that you won't be able to get ahead until you kill this baby.
There's plenty of people that can't have kids. They can't
and they
bear
would take
kids,
them and love them and just whatever.
So I also, another thing that you mentioned was about how the Democrats always push down our throats, and we're supposed to be very quiet or not talk about things. And that's one of the big problems with the Republicans that we need to change.
No, it actually is our consultants that tell us this is what you shouldn't mention. Wait until someone brings it up to you. And that's where we should just forget you. No, we're going to be on the offense for a change.
I have to say, as a candidate as well, it's very uncomfortable.
Well, I think it's a disposition of Republicans to be very think about something and be very what's the word?
Passive or just
passive, quiet,
demure about the situation, and don't until you're asked about it, just don't mention it. Where they're screaming their platform unapologetically with the asymmetric blue hair in your face, nose ring, and
the stereotypes are true.
Right, and we're just sitting there. Well, okay, yeah, sure, and just getting beat. And I love when they say we need to reach across the aisle and work with these people. We reach across, they grab us by the hand and beat us over the head with a metal chair, and we're playing some gentleman's game and slapping them with white gloves, where they're in an MMA fight, and we just got to we never stoop to their level, but we have to be just doggedly determined.
We need to be more assertive in our stance, because
we've got the best platform, but it's the best kept secret, though. That's the problem.
Exactly, and there's a lot of people that think that the Republican Party is for the rich, and it's like that's not true at all. It's for the people who have like a conscience.
It's not for the rich,
right? There's an intuition. I have always turned towards the Republicans, even as a little kid, because when I was in second grade, we had 9/11, and I remember the world before that. I left our house and went to school that morning in second grade, and I remember what it was like that morning and days
he's
prior.
A baby, huh? Second grade.
I think I was 40. Yeah. I don't remember.
Right. You know, right. Yeah, I had like 4 kids or whatever. You were a baby, right.
And then I remember being pulled out of school. and for the next months, every single day, seeing the videos on TV. When we were in the second grade that day, the announcement came over the radio. The principal came up and told them to turn on the TVs, and we didn't know what we were watching. And all the teachers started crying. But the world that was after that event, completely different than the world before. And we became, as a nation, the most united, most patriotic time for the next 3 years after that. And then we were just destroyed with the housing crisis and this war and that war. And then just this change in our society where we went to these safe spaces, and the people who were gothics in school became the blue-haired club with the pink and the purple and the weird parts of society. I don't get it. I always swayed to the Republican side. I don't know why. There was just something deep down that said this other stuff is weird. I don't know. And then I just found out this year what that really was. It was the conservative disposition. And if you didn't know, in Mecosta County, in the township of Mecosta, that is where Russell Kirk created the conservative movement. He wrote the book, The Conservative Mind. How conservatism started was right in Mecosta County.
Wow.
Mecosta
County is ground zero for everything.
And that's the best kept secret of conservatism.
Right. Yeah.
It was started right here in Mecosta County.
I'm excited. So you're a brand new conservative. You're fresh.
I've always voted Republican. I just didn't know why.
I was trying to look up the book that we were at the bar last night. What was the bar called?
Jimmy's Roadhouse.
Oh yeah, what an awesome conservative bar.
Yes.
And they had a pamphlet, and it was like, it wasn't called We the People, but there was a book written here too by one of your candidates, and I was looking for it on Amazon because I was going to order it. But that's what I was. That's why my that's why my Amazon. That's why my phone went off, because I was looking through my Amazon.
Yeah, when your phone went
searches.
off, it got picked up by the microphone.
Yeah, so I know it was.
Okay. Wow.
How do you see your search history?
Okay.
But I don't think so.
I don't have my glasses.
No, that's one you got. It was called,
that's from Bruce Borkovich.
I'm excited about
Yes, that's a great book.
I'm the only one that didn't get one that night, Thursday night.
He didn't go to the picnic. When did you get that?
yesterday.
Oh.
I'm really excited.
Bruce was at the bonfire.
Oh, he was?
Did you?
Oh, the bonfire I wasn't invited to? Uh-huh.
Yeah, you said, not that I'm holding that,
I wasn't invited to.
Right. Well, I'm sure you check your spam folder. I'm sure the email is there.
No, what's funny, what's hilarious about it is a person asked me for Angela's and Amanda's phone contact information, so I blindly gave it to the individual. I didn't ask any questions, and then
didn't know
at the
that
picnic, you were like, "Are you going over there?" And I'm like, "Going over where?" And I'm like, "Why are you going there?" And she goes, okay.
Never beyond the velvet rope. You're not included.
I wasn't invited.
Right.
Thank you very much. I can't wait for her to listen to this podcast.
You didn't seem to the level of driving by slowly, hoping that they come out and say, "Oh, come on in." You weren't that desperate, but the worst case of FOMO, of fear of missing out. Right.
It was very nice.
Just the nicest people.
I was so nervous coming up here and going into a house full of people where I didn't know anybody, and everybody.
You couldn't tell. You were so comfortable with everything you did.
Me. Yes, thank you.
They make you feel like just come on in and just.
That's
they talk about Southern
County.
Hospitality, but Michigan hospitality, it rivals that. It's just.
I did wonder why you weren't there though.
I thought about you. It's something as simple as going into a convenience store yesterday, and I said I'm looking for a toothbrush.
They're not convenience stores. They're called party stores.
Party stores.
Yeah.
Okay.
Did you go to a party store?
We went to a convenience store.
I'm going to say a gas station store. And so when I asked, I said, "Where's the toothbrush?" And normally you get somebody that's kind of cranky and over there or whatever. This woman walks up behind the counter and walks me over to where it is. That kind of hospitality in a convenience store. I'm sorry, package store, whatever. I just couldn't believe that. I was like, this is the kind of going that extra mile. And everybody calls you hun. I was like this. I'm in. I'm trying to explain to my husband, we have to move here. there. Forget our restaurant. We're moving to this part of Michigan.
You have a restaurant?
Yeah, I'm very fortunate that when I ran for lieutenant governor, my husband opened up a restaurant at the same time. So we're both doing something just major at the same time that we've never done before. So January 2022, we opened up a hot dog restaurant that had been victim of the J.B. Pritzker open and close. It was a Subway for 30 years, but the guy couldn't manage with the open, close. So it sat empty in our community for 2 years, and it's the busiest intersection in our town. So my husband had this idea, and approaching the owner, is, hey, can we do a hot dog restaurant? And because Subway left the ovens there, we get to bake our own buns, and we hand cut our fries. And it's very risky. Yeah, she came right before she picked me up. She went to Boss Dogs. But the thing is that you
what's
open
it called again?
BOSS Dogs, DAWGZ, Boss Dogs. And what's so great is that most restaurants, it's risky to have a restaurant anyway, and especially in a state like Illinois. But we're so fortunate in this economy that for $9.62, you get a full-size hot dog, a ridiculous amount of fries, and a refillable drink. And people are willing to spend that to come in and to support us. And we're doing very well. And if you follow me on my personal page, you know I'm an unapologetic Christian conservative. I've even said in a Facebook Live, if you've got a Biden T-shirt, come on in, I'll buy you lunch. So we have to be careful when you have a business. You don't want to alienate anyone. We want everybody to come in, but we've been blessed.
How are you competing against Portillo's?
Who? Oh. That's a 4-letter word in our family. Portillo's. Well, they don't bake their own buns and they don't hand cut their fries. And we love Portillo's.
I'm gonna have to go to your place.
Yeah, we love it. Boss Dogs, DAWGZ. And you know what? I came up with Friday right before the convention. I had FOMO because I really wanted to go to the convention, but I didn't have any credentials. I went to the mall. Didn't use our regular T-shirt vendor because I wanted this right away. And I had 2 friends going up there. So I had them make red shirts that said, "Made hot dogs great again," in the exact same Trump font, just like Trump. And I put our logo on the sleeve. They went, like, everybody wanted to get a picture with them. And it just hit me. And I made one for myself. And I was kind of shy about coming out of the closet. I don't want to make some person walk in and just flip out and run out the door. But after they shot my president in the head on Monday, I put on my shirt. Yes. I wore it. And people were like, "Nice shirt." I'm like, "Thank you." And so, I'm just like, it's time for us to just come out. Because if they can put up a little rainbow sticker in a business, which kind of says to me, you care more about rainbow money or LGBTQ, the alphabet mafia money, and you don't care about my Christian money. The whole thing
at the end of that is the QTIA, the plus. Is that like the plus
that
version of being
that's
gay?
Coming. That's stuff that's still coming.
The subscription version?
Right. Just keep it coming. We don't know what is going to happen. It's all 64 colors out of that crayon box, by the way, will eventually be on that flag. So just get ready. And so I'm like, if I love Jesus and I love this country, and if that makes me crazy, we have like the Pledge of Allegiance, a little sign I got from like Hobby Lobby right over in our
over
concession.
the ketchup.
Yeah, just wonder, is it okay if we still love America? Is that all right?
See, Manteno is Trump country.
You see, I wish.
Our houses are decorated with Trump flags and signs.
We
all in our town.
I lived in the reddest county, DuPage County, when I moved there in 1994, where I was told not to move there.
So
You're moving from Chicago, a mixed family. My husband's white. You guys will never fit in, and I'm so glad I didn't listen to them. We were welcome in 1994. We got off the expressway, and I felt part of that community because I started volunteering and became this super duper volunteer mom. And I love my community. That's how I met people. But we were the reddest county, but everybody kept moving from Chicago, bringing their voting habits with them. And we have kind of feckless leadership in DuPage County, the GOP. We need to say it plain. And all of a sudden I woke up one day, I had a representative, Bill Foster, and I'm like, wait, how did I wake up to and having a Democrat as a representative? That freaked me out. And that was so many years ago. I can't remember how long ago. But now I don't live in DuPage anymore. I live in Blue Page.
That's happening in Will County, too, though. Will County is
That's a battleground area in Will County, yeah.
Like DuPage did, and now they're starting to come into my town.
And same in King County in ours as well. I had 9 counties that I covered, and the problem is, so I ran twice in the primary for the congressional seat, and it would have been up against Bill Foster. I lost twice in a primary. This time it was sad because I actually was like this sweetheart of a candidate, and everybody thought I was going to make it. But I didn't quit my job, and I didn't abandon our family goals and, make a mess of my personal life. The other candidate, however, all he did was kind of set his, I don't know what he did with his business. Maybe someone else is running it, but all he did was, call all day long and raise money. And you have to do that because money is very important. Mm-hmm. But I will say, I was in 9 debates and I finished the best in all of those 9. I won every single straw poll. But the problem with me is, toward the end, we were all putting out, all of our marketing materials, and he had more. And because the voter turnout was so low, like, for example, for my particular race, 7.5% of the Republican voters showed up in the primary.
Why?
And it's because of the apathetic vote, and especially in Illinois, people do not think their vote counts.
It does.
Your vote counts. I don't understand how to point
because if they would have shown up, if the woman vote would have shown up alone, I would have won.
My mother is one that does not vote because she says she doesn't understand it. My dad never voted either.
My son too. He wouldn't vote in the election, and he said, "If you make me go register and vote, I'm going to vote for Pritzker."
Why?
I cried.
So you stay home.
I said stay home.
We don't want you to vote.
He thinks it's the funniest thing ever because he really believes his vote does not count, and I cannot get him.
My sister is the same way.
That's lack of civics education.
Yes.
They removed that from it. If they could just understand why we were started as a country, and you read the character of George Washington and all those people that put everything on the line.
Biden.
Well, he's no Biden. George Washington's no Biden. Don't get it confused.
Yeah.
And these kids just don't get it, and that's just really sad that they didn't come out and just not to vote. And especially as a black woman, I'm not African American, I'm a black American. When our ancestors were poll tested, and
you prefer that term.
Oh, we're black. Don't try to give me this title. I'm just a black woman. I'm not African American. I'm an American that happens to be black, right?
There you go.
White people are not European Americans. Why am I? That's a liberal term. But I think about our ancestors that when they got the right to vote, and they would walk to a place and they would say wrong one just to mess with them. You got to walk 4 miles that way, or guess how many jelly beans are in this jar just because they were black. You think I'm gonna give up the chance to vote? That's a waste of my inheritance. I have to be up there ready to vote, and an informed vote, by the way. And I don't get these people that don't want to vote.
Yeah.
Well, it's absolutely true, but unfortunately, they don't think that the vote counts. It does count, like you said.
Yeah.
And it's sad because they don't have civics education anymore. Although I will say this, Illinois, you have to pass the Constitution test in order to move forward into the next grade, which actually in Pennsylvania you didn't have to. So that's one good thing.
8th grade?
That's
Wow.
8th grade. And that's one good thing. And actually, my daughter's 8th grade history teacher is the one that was my consultant on the road with me for those 4 years. Yes.
Wow.
And we used to go around and I'd take him with me, and he would do like a little presentation on the Constitution and make it fun. Jim Cook, his name is James Cook. So, but I will say that, I've had to do a lot of kind of searching as far as what is the Constitution, and reading and trying to understand it myself separately. That book I was talking about earlier it's Judge Mark Boonstrau.
Yep. Mark Boonstrau. He's a great guy.
He's written a book, and actually I'm ordering it.
I need to order it too.
Yeah, it's called In Their Own Words, and it's all about
I don't know if
fathers.
Everybody that he was handing those books out to that bought the books, he was giving them 3 each. So I don't know if it's a 3-part book.
I think it is a 3-part book.
Oh my gosh, really?
Yeah.
It's like this.
Yeah.
I thought he was giving 3 copies away.
We got these incredible patriots here in Michigan.
Yes. Again, conservatism started right here in Mecosta County. Where were you guys when you found out about the Trump shooting? I was at Jody Benedict's living wake, and it was right after. I know, and she went in to take a nap, and we all sat around and then got ready to leave, and then that's when we found out. But where were you guys? We'll start with you.
I was up here in Michigan, working on my garden, and my phone was blowing up, and I'm like, what's going on? And then that's how I found out. So, yeah, because everybody had to tell me.
Now, did you see the full video or just the shooting first? Did you know that it got back up? Because we didn't.
You didn't?
Yeah.
No, there was like absolute panic for like 5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
No, I saw the full video. We turned the TV on right away.
Oh, yeah. I just saw the Twitter feed showing that he got shot, and they just cut it right after he got shot, and I'm showing it to people, and everyone's freaking out. And then I see another tweet come in, and it's the the second part of him getting up, and everybody's like, "Oh my gosh!"
Well,
it was
when I
absolute
opened
chaos.
Twitter, he had just came back up, like the picture of him coming up that
Yeah.
he took with the fight. That's what I saw when I opened Twitter because I was sleeping. I was taking a nap, surprise. And my phone, I left the ringer on because I wasn't on call and I just didn't think anybody would be bothering me. They know it's nap time. And my phone started blowing up. And I was really frustrated. And for about 20 minutes, I just laid there and I was like, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to answer it. And I finally sat up and opened my phone and I was, well, we're not going to say what I said, but I immediately opened Twitter and
It's
saw
a podcast. You can say whatever you
and
want.
saw that he was okay. And I'm like, wow, like what happened? Like how is this happening? So that's my story.
How about you?
Well, I went to an organization that I belong to. I'm actually on the executive team, and it's Preserve America Now. It's an anti-communism. Yeah, they wanted us to start another chapter. It's a bipartisan group, and it's just to
the way it should be,
just
but
to eliminate the American Marxist movement, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's happening here with a lot of the things that you're talking about, right? And so it's it's both Democrats and Republicans, and so they wanted to start a chapter. It's going to be called the Duquesne chapter, the DuPage and the Kane County chapter. So yes, I would love for you. I'm so excited because now I'm recruiting everybody to be on this. But Preserve America Now.
I'll take the drive.
So I'm going, and I just gotten off the flight from I don't even know where, and I'm driving, and I have Sirius XM on, and I was waiting for this because I'm from Pennsylvania, and Butler, Pennsylvania is close by, and in fact, where the gentleman was from that killed him is like right in the next community over.
Wow.
So So I was just waiting, and I was hearing all the pomp and circumstance. He comes on the stage and all that, and then when it all happened, you could hear like what sounded like fireworks, and then all of a sudden they're like, we have to stop now. We can't. And then all of a sudden it's like, Trump is shot. And I'm like, I literally had to pull my car over to the side of the road because I started shaking. And then they didn't say right away. It felt like forever before they said anything else. And it was just this really long silence. And then I thought, well, I better tell someone. So I'm telling my daughter. I texted her immediately, and I started texting all of my conservative friends, and they're like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I'm like, turn on the TV, tell me what's going on, because I couldn't see it. Yeah. And so then they said, he's up, and so I'm like,
When he got up, it was like the biggest chills that went over me. Mm-hmm. Oh, just the hair. Mm-hmm. I got goosebumps when he got up, and every time I see that video. Just goosebumps. Where were you?
Well, my sister has a 3-year-old grandson, and I volunteered to help her with this party. So I'm around a room filled with Black Democrats. So she and I had run out to get some additional cheese for her nacho bar or whatever. So I'm in a bunch of crazy conservative mom groups, and I get a text saying, I think they shot our president. So I tell my brother-in-law, turn on TV. He turned on Fox News. And so we're just watching this, and this is a few minutes later, so we did know right away he'd gotten up. So one of her nephews says, he's in a group text with his work, and they immediately start texting, oh, Trump paid somebody to shoot him with a BB gun.
What?
Yeah, that's what they said. And I'm sitting in this group, and I'm so like just emotional, and didn't realize at that point we didn't know someone had been killed and 2 other people injured. Yeah. I just knew I had to get out of there. I did the Irish goodbye. I said goodbye to my sister and just kind of moonwalked backwards out of there to get in my car, because I was going to be on the radio the next day, and I figured I need to be, and I knew if I'd stayed there with these comments coming in about President Trump, I was going to lose it. And I normally can hold. I don't use profanity. I'm not that person, but I just knew I needed to be emerged around like-minded people. Yeah. I stopped at my business on my way home to drop off some of the dinosaur cupcakes I had made for the party. And our manager said someone in the store came in, because at that point we keep on like Andy Griffith's show during the day. We don't want to be political on the radio, but on TV at Boss Dogs. But he went ahead and put on Fox News, and a customer came in and said they should have killed the effer. Wow. That's what a customer did. Wasn't embarrassed to say that in front of people. And if I could go back on that security camera and find out who that was, and they're like, thank you, sir, but we don't need your $10 anymore. But just to see, when you said the fight, doesn't that, they want to reveal his character to be so many things, but for somebody to be shot in the moment of everything, and his first instinct is to assure us that he's okay.
Exactly.
That's so selfless that he just decided he could have been somewhere I would have been curled up in a bottle in a ball screaming mama daddy, and this man is getting up, just saying I'm okay. And the fact that how many thousands of people were at that rally, there was no stampede to get out of there.
Correct.
They're going to stay there and watch their president to see if he's okay.
Exactly.
I mean, that's who we are.
Yes.
And so for Joy Reid to say, well, okay, Trump came back from getting shot, and if Biden comes back from COVID, isn't that the same thing?
Oh, no.
I've had COVID like 3 or 4 times, and I would take it 100 more times over getting shot in the ear.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's crazy.
And from what you said, Stephanie, and we talked about this a little yesterday because we had this exact same conversation in the car. Because where were you, right? Yeah. And what I said was the same thing as she did, but with a little different twist is that, my first reaction to the fight was like, I think that he thinks he's dying and he wants to give us that message, like keep fighting, right?
Yeah.
And keep fighting. And for probably a split second, for at least a week, I thought that maybe this country was giving the reaction of 9/11. I felt like everybody was coming back to their senses.
Right. Even I have a socialist, Marxist, atheist first cousin, and anytime anything happens, she spikes the football and calls me. She called me. You could tell she was physically shaken she said, Stephanie, this because she no love for President Trump, and I was just shocked to hear from her because she only calls me on election night when we lose, and she was just totally shaken. She said, I'm so sorry that this happened, and she was just, and that's like you said, this is an opportunity for us to come together, but it was less than 24 hours later when AOC called him a fascist.
Yes.
And she didn't even get, the bandage was barely, but they went right back and I'm an emotional cutter, so I'm in a bunch of liberal Facebook pages, and they just went right back to calling him Satan and Hitler. It's some kind of weird combination that he's a hybrid of Satan and Hitler.
Oh,
they
didn't
ridiculous. Even it's fake. And then the conspiracy theories. I have 5 kids, so it's a numbers game. You're gonna get one socialist. My middle kid is a socialist. Mom, he wasn't
really?
shot at unapologetically. He was switched at birth. I'm convinced. I'm gonna sue the hospital later, but that's another story. But he says to me, Mom, he wasn't shot. It was the glass from the teleprompter.
No!
And I'm just like, are you kidding? They just refuse to believe that this man was shot. He was shot in the head.
We're the conspiracy theorists.
Right, we're the crazy ones. And I heard a grown man, my son's 31, I still think of him as a baby. I heard a man say that I have Sirius XM 2 on the Breitbart Morning Show. And he was so confident to Mike Slater. Oh, well, he was shot by, that was just a piece of glass from the teleprompter. And you show both teleprompters intact. Yeah. Nothing wrong with them. And I'm just like, you guys, kids, this man's a freaking rock star. He's gangster. Like, that's all you got. Fight. You tried to take me out? I mean, he's a New York street fighter. It gives me goosebumps that this is his character. This is who he is. Yeah. And my favorite part is he's like, my shoe. And he's like Cinderella. He's Cinderella. He leaves the shoe. And when you zoom in on this shoe, it's a nice shoe. It's the best shoe. It's the greatest shoe. But then fast forward how many days later, it's little feeble Biden going up the stairs in these sensible cushioned shoes. Yes. I was just like, don't tell me they're the same age and they're the same thing. No. Yes. I'm like, oh my gosh, that man is phenomenal. And just none of us were at the RNC, right? But that night, Lee Greenwood singing. Yeah. And he comes in for the first time in the crowd. Emotional. Forget about it. I'm like, he's a rock star. And when his granddaughter crawled into his lap, I'm like, and Biden hasn't even met little Navy Biden. And this Trump, and his 17-year-old granddaughter came out and spoke about him just being a grandpa, calling her during school, talking about her. Yeah. He is for real. Above all else, he's a man. Yeah. And when all those Gold Star parents came out and talked about he spent 6 hours with us. He knew my son's name. He knew my daughter's name. Well, I got to go to the border in 2018. It's a long story. And I'm down there with Angel parents.
Another podcast.
Yeah, right. I'm down there with Angel parents. And you know what they said to me? They said, we met George Bush. We met Obama. But when we met Trump, he knew our kid's name, verbatim what those other parents said. And they just talked about he's a real person. He's personable. He's not who you see. He wants to know who you are. Yeah. And I don't know how his parents poured that into somebody being born with a platinum spoon in their mouth, maybe because he was in construction and had to deal with regular union guys. But he's not the person that they paint, the Hitler-Satan combo that they paint him as. Yeah.
So, Stephanie, don't you have a Trump story?
Which one?
The one that he wouldn't...
Trump's mad at me.
Yeah.
That one.
What? Okay.
Trump doesn't like me. It's a long story. Really quick. I was one of those Ted Cruz persons. Anybody else in here? High five Ted Cruz? No? I'm alone. Okay. Anyway, so I was upset. upset that Ted Cruz had dropped out. I thought he was our answer. He's Christian conservative. We got this. And then he drops out in June. I spent the summer I had 6 people following me on Twitter. And I was just like, I don't like Trump. I'm not going to vote for him. I'm going to vote for Mickey Mouse.
This is in 2016?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I'm just spending the summer. I had a radio show.
2015.
2016. This was up until, So I lost a bunch of people because Ted Cruz dropped out after that last debate in June. Primary. So I spent the summer alienating a bunch of people on my radio show, and I'm losing people following me because they were just like, what do you mean you're not going to vote for Trump? What's wrong with you? This is our choices. It's either Hillary or Trump. And I was so steadfast and dug in that I was not going to vote for this man. He's going to get in the White House and paint everything gold lame because he's so bodacious and so, I had a story for everything. I was backing up my reason why I wasn't. So I had just moved back from Arizona, and my Bible study group didn't know what I did, that I had this little radio show. And Trump was coming to Bolingbrook down the street from me, and the black station said, we got to show up and protest him. He's coming to a fundraiser. So I wanted to go down and cover it as a radio host. So I tell my women in my Bible study, and normally we have like 10 women. This day we only had 5. And I said, I have a radio show. I'm just going to leave a little bit early, ladies, to shoot down to Bolingbrook. And I said, but I'm going to see Trump, but I ain't voting for him. And these women closed their Bibles and leaned into me and said, Franklin Graham says, and they just started why I needed to vote for Trump. And I hate Facebook Live. I hate being on camera back then. I was a radio host and I didn't like speaking in public, but this is how God works. God told me to do a Facebook Live. So I'm driving down the one street, my favorite street in DuPage, Naperville Road, because it's a beautiful tree line. And I did a Facebook Live. I said, those women are crazy. I love them, and but I am not voting for President Trump. I'm going down here just to see what's going on. And within 10 minutes of getting there, I'm on camera yelling at protesters about why we got to vote for Trump. Now, how that happened, let me tell you about God. Because they were down there with these illegals saying what they were entitled to. I saw a black woman that had a sign that read...
No, chime.
How long have we been doing this? Isn't
an hour and 18 minutes.
Wow, time has flown because I'm like, this is a cycle.
What is it, a clock? Okay, so I see a black woman. She was my age, and she had a sign in her hand. She said, "If Trump wins, we're going to go back to Africa." And I was talking to some conservatives. I said, "I'll be right back. I got to go over and talk to this lady." I said, I said, back to Africa, I've never been, but is he going to Airbnb? This is what I said to her. I said, so is he going to Airbnb us, and how are we going to get back there? And I said, do you really believe this? Right, I'm like, can I get to pick where I get to go? And so then I saw a bunch of kids that said, vote for Trump, and they had a marijuana leaf. So I left the lady with the sign and ran over to these young people. I said, were you guys high when you made this sign? and the girl points it to them and shakes her head, yes. So I realized none of them had signs about why we should vote for Hillary. They were protesting a man who was just running for president like he wasn't entitled to run. And when I'm yelling at some illegals telling me that they are entitled to my inheritance, the 13th, 14th, 15th Amendment was written for enslaved Americans, descendants of... I drove home, I said, God, won't you do it? And I'm like, son of a biscuit. I got on the Trump train, never looked back, and didn't think much about it. Fast forward, I'm running for lieutenant governor. They'll make the announcement. And I know a lot of people from being on the radio. I have them on my show. My phone goes off on my way to my first event, and this guy calls me. He says, it's a lot of Trump fundraisers in Illinois don't like you. And I said, what are you talking about? He said, no, because Trump called him out. When you used to tweet, he would say, why don't we have somebody on our team like this? And I was like, you're full of beat. He doesn't know me or whatever. And I didn't know just how connected this guy was. A lot of people pretend that they're in the circle, but they're not. And so we were trying to get the endorsement of Trump. And Wednesday before, this guy calls me because we had a lot of great candidates we were competing against in the primary. He said, you guys got it. So I said, turn to my deputy campaign manager. I said, should I tell the team that we're going to get the endorsement? He's like, well, you don't know for sure we're going to get it. Just shut up. We go down to the rally in Quincy. And so he's in a tent. It's just like in the Bible. He's in that tent. We could see him. And my husband says to the team, is Stephanie going to get to go in and meet him? And none of the team go in. It's just Darren and his wife. And then, because my husband's like, if you guys go in there, Stephanie's worked her butt off. He didn't say but. You got to go in there. But they all come back out. He goes on stage. He endorses Darren. It's crazy. The crowd goes crazy. And it's about to of rain. So Darren's running to the car. Me and my husband are behind him. And he has this beautiful Southern accent. He's like, well, Trump asked me about his lieutenant governor doesn't like him. I was like, son of a, he knows. I thought it was all a joke. He's like, I set him straight and told him that you know, that you fine and you love him. I mean, I have more Trump gear than Melania. Trust me. And so I get in the car, the guy that originally called me, I get in the car. He's like, Stephanie, when you guys win, I'm going to make sure that you get to meet Trump. I want him to know how much, you know, and I was there when he had COVID and Candace Owens had a bunch of us there on the South Lawn. I was there. I used to drive around in my convertible with my Trump visor on, and my son would say, Mom, you're going to need some pepper spray. What's wrong with you? You're driving around in a convertible with your Trump, black voices for Trump on the back of your car and a Trump visor. And I said, Julian, I'm from the hood. I'm the baddest thing in DuPage County. No, I wish somebody would get in my face. You know, I was all tough. And so I'm just like, I didn't really think Trump. My mother used to say, because she thought I was insane for voting for Trump, she would say to me, I hope Trump knows how much you love him. And I would say, Mommy, Trump doesn't know me. There's a lot of people that love him. Turns out a couple tweets in 2016, whatever. And so I did. It was September 25th. I'll never forget the date.
You never were paying attention.
And so now, but look at J.D. Vance. He forgave him. Exactly. He didn't forgive me. I never called him Nazi or whatever. I was just like kind of in my feelings about Ted Cruz. And so Trump, I love you, and please let me one day meet you. So after we lose the campaign, this Moms for America group, I loved all those ladies. That's who I went to the border with. They said, Stephanie, you want to go to Mar-a-Lago? And they would like look, and I was like, oh, I just spent a bunch of money on the campaign, and and I don't know, and I didn't feel right investing. We have a business, and they kept lowering the price. They gave me a code for free. I can go to Mar-a-Lago for free. I got so excited, and so my husband turns to me and says, "Are you allowed in Mar-a-Lago?" I'm like, stop. But I wound up. It was on my son's birthday, and I didn't feel right missing yet another birthday to go. And so my goal is to go to and I don't know if he even came that weekend or whatever,
No,
but he didn't come. Okay, so I feel there. So bad. So hopefully one day.
So can we have a girls' trip to Mar-a-Lago? Because I would love that.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, I'm a huge Trump fan.
Oh, thank you.
I've known Trump for a long time because, I don't know him personally, but I've known of him for a long time.
Don't bury the lead.
I think I'm misleading a lot of things.
You're a sniper,
In any case, I'm from Pennsylvania. I lived in Philadelphia for many years, and it was when he did the revitalization, the Renaissance of Philadelphia. So he was involved in that too.
Yeah.
And then he was also involved, right before that in, the New York skyline. So I've known him for a long time, and it was always the Trump haters and the Trump lovers, and it depended because some people, wouldn't like the fact that he was taking, these up and coming neighborhoods, I would call them, right? And modernizing them and putting big casinos like in Atlantic City or in Philadelphia or wherever it might be. But, his goal is always to improve things. But I will say that, over the years, all of the comments that he makes are many of the ones, because I'm in senior management, many of the ones that we do in the boardroom to, kind of like, kid each other, but mainly to like, who's gonna win this debate, or who's gonna win this negotiation, or how can I control the room, right? And I think that a lot of that is mistaken with Trump in that he does have that speak, but a lot of it I think he does on purpose, right? Because he wants to cause drama, and he wants to get people going.
There was a video on Twitter a couple weeks ago or last week where they show Obama talking about killing Osama bin Laden, and then they show this back and forth, and then Trump talking about Big Daddy when he got shot, and the difference in where Obama's all talking, all trying to all clean and very, very sophisticated, where Trump is like, we typically you would knock on the door and be like, who's there, and then you come in and then you handle it that way, but we just blew through the wall and killed him, and he was deader than a dog, a beautiful dog.
He says Baghdadi. He's just so like, he's a baller. I'm sorry. He's like, Baghdadi.
You're a baller.
Right. Oh my God, man.
China.
Oh my God.
China.
Right.
How do you feel about the Democrats basically? How did you become a Republican? I'm trying to word the question correctly.
Well, I'm a black woman
yes.
born in Chicago, deep blue Chicago, where when you're born, they slap you on the butt and they put a D on your butt. I mean, that's how you vote. You don't ask any questions.
Right.
I remember Carol Moseley Braun she ran for Senate, and I was living in a very liberal part of Rogers Park in Chicago. It's a neighborhood, and every sign, every window had a Carol Moseley Braun. She's going to be the first black woman, blah, blah, blah. And so I just wasn't paying attention. We had no money. We bought a car for like $600. And we lived in the city, so therefore we didn't need two cars. We shared a car, and we bought this car, and it didn't have an FM radio. And this is so true. And like many things on your honey-do list,
FM like queen, so that is
right.
shocking.
AM. It didn't have an FM radio, so I kept telling my husband to put one in. But like many things on the honey-do list, it never got done. So he and my nail technician at the time said, "You should listen to this rap station." Well, I had kids, and I'm not listening to rap. I just I was like, nah, that wasn't my thing. And rap had taken quite a turn from when it started when I was a kid. So I found WLS, and it's the biggest talk station where now then Mark Levin would be on there, Rush Limbaugh. And they were very entertaining, and I thought I was a Democrat. So I listened to the station, and then I realized, wait, all their values that I believe in, wait, those are Republican values, but that's how I believe. And then I realized if Chicago, and I'm looking at it, it's been run by Democrats since the 30s, and it's basically an armpit. So I'm thinking, wait a minute, if they are the be-all, the end-all for black people, why are we suffering? And I had always been such an advocate for schools, and my mom had made a school choice of paying tuition, and these public schools are failing the black community disproportionately. So one day I just came out of the closet. I said, I am a Republican. And I was just like those fired up new Christians. I wanted to tell everybody, sit next to me, and I'm going to tell you all about being a Republican. But I thought Rush Limbaugh, everybody would say he was a racist. And I would listen to all the local people, but at 11 o'clock, I would pull out a little TV, a Sony TV, and listen to my soap operas in the car. Because I was like, I'm a Republican, but this guy's a racist. And one day, I don't know when I started listening to him, maybe when the TV burned out or something, and I started listening to Rush, and he became my radio hero. And when I won a radio contest and they gave me an opportunity for a 1-2 hour show, my husband said to me like the Sunday before, he's like, who do you want to be when you go on the radio? I said, I want to be some kind of combination of me, Rush Limbaugh, and Mark Levin, and just be unapologetic about what I feel and being able to communicate. And my goal has always been to be the Harriet Tubman of the Republican Party, to get more of my people that look like me to vote like me, because we are very conservative. And the Republican Party was started to free the slaves. And so we got to go back to our roots and who Lincoln was and everything. And we somehow, Democrats show up as Santa Claus, and we're going to give you all this stuff. Yep. And you think about Frederick Douglass said, the Negro problem. He didn't want the government. You had just been enslaved by the government. Now they're going to free you. They didn't want anything from the government. Just get out of our way and let us go and be who we are. They would walk from a plantation, teach themselves to read, go off to an Ivy League college, started by Christian Republicans, I might add, because Democrats didn't want us to get educated. So all these HBCUs started by Christian Republicans. And they didn't want reparations. They just wanted you to get out of our way and let us go and live the American dream. That's my culture. That's my history. Not these people sitting around waiting for this carrot they keep dangling. We're going to give you reparations. And we live in deep blue Illinois. Why won't J.B. Pritzker give the black folks, you got the votes, give us the reparations, dear J.B., because they know they're not going to give it to us. And Obama was the perfect president to give us, well, he's not a descendant of slaves, that's another story, but why didn't they do it then?
But so you don't like Obama either?
Oh, come on. He's not. He's just, he can read the
Jesus.
Chocolate Jesus.
That's
Chocolate Jesus. Coco Jesus, one record. Right. So he was the second coming, and so we got to worship at his feet. And then what did he do for black people? Absolutely nothing. And it's just, he was an empty suit, and now Kamala is an empty pantsuit.
Is it Kamala or Kamala?
I heard her correct someone and say it rhymes with Pamela. So we all say Kamala, but it's really Kamala. Yeah, Kamala. It doesn't matter because it's all the same thing.
I was going to say camel toe.
Right. Okay. At that note, it's your turn, Andrew. It just got. What are the age group? Is this PG-13 or not?
This podcast, there's no rules.
Okay.
That's so true. But the problem is the virtue signaling, right?
Yes.
And I was on a podcast a few weeks ago, and it was Catholic podcast, and I said, to the audience, I'm like, okay, I want to listen up, Catholics. Virtue signaling is a sin.
Yes.
Do you know that? You're not allowed to tell the good works
explain.
that you do for the Lord, right? You're not supposed to talk about it.
Yes.
You're supposed to do it and not have anybody know.
Right.
But the problem is now they're virtue signaling but doing nothing. And this is the problem that I have with the the Democrat Party.
Yeah.
And that is exactly what they're doing. So they have people that are marginalized, people that are in low income,
Yep.
people that can't, have the benefits of all of us sitting around this table. That's the problem. They don't advance anything. They talk about it. They collect a lot of money. They give money to each other, but they don't fix these problems, and they
Correct.
don't invest in the communities. And
Correct.
that's the problem with Chicago a month
I don't
ago.
know who Danny Davis
He's-
is.
Danny Davis has been in Congress since, whatever.
Jesus walks?
Jesus walks. Yeah, he owes Jesus $5. Okay, so he's been for a long time, right? Uh-huh.
So I talked to him a few months ago. I went there and lobbied, but I don't have respect for the fact that there's too much of this virtue signaling
Yes.
on all of their behalves because nothing has been done in his district.
There are
or
no
other
grocery
districts.
stores, right? When I lived in his
And so
district,
that's
we
what
had
I
grocery
mean.
stores, but now there are
Yes,
none,
but now they're
right?
not. But
No, major
so
chains,
no
right?
More, there's got to be no more virtue signaling. And we have to all chip in and help. And we've got to correct what's going on in Chicago. And I don't see those numbers anymore about 900 people dead a day, or I'm making this up. But I'm just saying, where are the numbers? I think Brandon Johnson
Brandon's in. They want to hide what every weekend what they're doing,
Correct.
but and so they don't want to make it attach that to the first. As Brandon says, I'm the first mayor with a black wife and black children, and they make it about everything but about getting it done. They'll say, well, we're going to invest in those disenfranchised neighborhoods that haven't been invested in. Well, Democrats have been running the city since the 30s, so if it wasn't invested in it, they don't even have Republicans to blame it on. We have no Republicans of any power in the city.
Correct.
And so when you want to get it done, just do it then, because you guys have the votes, you have the power, and there's so many stop the violence organizations. We could do a line item, we could do a FOIA of how much of the budget goes to these fake stop the violence programs where nothing's getting done. They're just, lining the pockets of these grifters.
We have to hold these people accountable now. And though I do respect, because I don't want to be
He's a nice
polarized.
guy.
We're not
Bill
polarized, right?
Foster's a nice guy.
They
Brandon
are,
Johnson's a
but
nice
they
guy.
have to start
They're
stepping
bad
up.
leaders,
If
right.
they are going to continue leadership, they have to start stepping up, stop talking around in circles, stop all of
blaming
these
Nixon.
gaslighting.
Yes. What was that about?
That's why I texted him. I said, Brandon.
I should have got a second. Hold on one second. I should have got a third or fourth. We should have switched who had to share mics. Because for those who can't hear on this podcast, the mic keeps going back and forth.
We need a camera. Yeah, so right. Your turn.
I have to add that my area is gerrymandered. So even though I am 2 counties away from Cook County,
right.
our congressional reps are from Cook County.
Yeah, they drew the
nobody-
map. They draw maps like ink blot tests.
So,
right.
Yeah, we can't even win anymore. Republicans can't even win anymore because of the way
they have the
County,
power. Right.
You can't. I have no representation.
Right.
I have Jesse Jackson's son and Robin Kelly.
Right.
Are my 2 people.
Right. It's really scary that we how many Republican congressmen? We had LaHood there yesterday. Yeah. We have Mary Miller.
Oh,
yeah, in Illinois. Yeah.
And we only have one more. There's only 3.
There's only 3 out of 17. Right. We only have 3 in the whole state of Illinois. Right. And even though there's, down there is red, down in south of 80, and that's where they come from. And we have, and up here they gerrymander, and they just all they can do is blame the closest white Republican. That's what and they don't have any to blame really in Cook County. Right. But you know what? When they looked at DuPage County, which used to be the reddest, they didn't say, well, let's just give up. It's red, it's no hope. What they did was just chip away, and cycle after cycle, and little bit after little bit, and suddenly they won. And we have to be, as much as we are sitting around saying what's wrong with Illinois, we love Illinois, and we're still there, where some of us got 1 foot in Michigan.
They're not chasing me. They're not chasing me out. And
right. This is the land of Lincoln.
This is the land of Lincoln, and we belong here. And these Republican conservative values are what Illinois was built on.
Right.
And they're not chasing us out.
We're
so
not
they
leaving.
Can't do anything to us that's going to let us.
We love Lincoln,
leave.
but even more importantly, the only president, Lincoln was not from Illinois. He's a Kentucky guy. Oh. Ronald Reagan. That is our hope. That is our dream. And if you need to be inspired and you're sad, drive to Dixon and take the tour of his childhood home. You will come out of there ready to go, ready to fight, because they painted Reagan in 1980. I was 15. They painted him as a rich out of touch Republican. And I remember in my neighborhood, we didn't talk politics, but they said, if Reagan wins, he's a rich white Republican. He doesn't care about black people. We're going to be a slave again. I was never a slave. How are you going to make me a slave again? And so they're using the same rhetoric with Trump so many years later. And so here I am afraid of Republicans because I was told that they're rich and they don't care about us. And God is so good. Fast forward 2004, I'm pregnant with my final kid, and I'd run out of relatives to name kids after. And I heard all those, really, it's the fifth kid. I heard all those tributes that summer to Ronald Reagan. And I knew in December when I had that kid, he was going to, boy, girl, and those are the only two sexes, by the way. Anyway, boy, girl, it was going to be Reagan. And to name a black kid Reagan or a biracial kid, my family's still talking about it, still grist for the mill. I should have named him Clinton, I guess. Like, why did she name that kid Ronald Reagan? And when I took the tour during the campaign season, the first would have been First Lady Cindy Bailey called over to the house and said, hey, we've got some time. Give us a tour. We had this private tour of Ronald Reagan's house. You realize that what this guy came from, just dirt poor. His father was an alcoholic. How many of us can't relate to that? Yeah. And how the mother had to work so hard just to, she would sing at funerals and weddings. She would rent out rooms. She would sew. She just hustled to get it done. And then Reagan went off to Eureka College. He came back. He applied to be a manager at Montgomery Ward. Had he got that job, we would never have, he probably would have been content and happy and, life would on a gravy train with biscuit wheels. I'm a manager at Montgomery Wards. And this guy went on to do what he did. I walked out of that tour, just my chest pumped up, so happy that I named my son Reagan. And that's what we need to go back to our roots of what Ronald Reagan did and take down that wall. Yes. And, I mean, he's amazing. And my socialist still blames him for so much. I'm like, Endon, really? He's been dead 20 years. He was out of office, but it was because of Ronald Reagan. I'm like, oh my gosh. And thank goodness for people like Ronald Reagan, and it's the closest we can get to it is Donald Trump.
And honestly, we just need to get more together, and that's the whole point of mentioning. Because if there are any Democrats listening,
the OTG folks are.
Okay,
good. The only things
I really want to say that, in all honesty, we want to be closer. We don't want to have this polarized environment anymore. It's not good for anyone. I mean, that we want to bring people closer. And if you notice in this country, it is way to the left now. And so it has to calibrate, and it hasn't. Yeah. The pendulum has not swung in many, 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 many years. And
I think it's swinging back our way now.
If it doesn't, we are sure to fall into communism. And if you don't know what that believes, listen to what Darren LaHood said yesterday, and listen to Molinar, because they're absolutely correct in that. In China, you cannot go out of your house unless you have special permission to go to the next community to visit your mother or wherever you have to go. You have to get permission. Is that the type of life you want to live here in the United States of America?
Exactly. Well, and Goshen's already dictating where their employees can live, and you have to live in the town of Manteno. I mean, how can that be for America? How is that allowed that a company can dictate where their employees live?
And I believe this next election is going to be clarity, good, bad, or indifferent. And clarity is good. If they vote for Kamala and whoever she picks, I think Pete Buttigieg. Anyway, and we.
You think they're going to vote?
Well, I mean, wouldn't he check a lot of boxes?
Pete Buttigieg.
It would be a DEI, another DEI situation.
Right, it's going to be Hillary Clinton.
Oh yeah. Because, he's done such a good job with his responsibilities in transportation. But this will be clarity. Are we going to pick freedom and opportunity and what we know and going back to what our founding fathers believe? Or are we going to go with the socialist craziness and like this Goshen thing and learning so much yesterday? Why would we want to be in bed with our enemies, our mortal enemies? Correct. And Vivek Ramaswamy during his campaign, he was the only candidate that said it's going to be hard, but we need to start weaning ourselves off Chinese products, Chinese services, everything. It's going to be hard because, everything made in China is cheaper. And my son Reagan got that when he was little. He said to me, Mom, how was the dollar store able to sell things so cheaply? And he just kind of broke it down. He's like, because, stuff came from China. And I was just like, this is a kid that is very conservative. He's on the spectrum. But when I ran for office, he said, Mom, I want nothing to do with your politics. And I thought, well, you're a black man named Reagan. You're in this game whether you want to be or not, buddy. But I just think about a little kid that just understood, just because it's cheap, we need to turn it over. If it's made in China, even if we got to pay a little bit more, we need to support American made and not be dependent on our mortal enemy for anything.
And he said that because my daughters say kind of the same thing, right? Because it makes people nervous. Because why? Politics has become toxic.
Yes.
But that is absolutely not where we need to be.
Well, hold up. Everyone thinks that talking about politics. This is why my parents and my sisters, the family don't want to talk about politics because they don't have enough information. They only listen to the news. And they go
sound
based
bites.
on it's sound bites,
Right.
and anything that is against their understanding is viewed as hostile or toxic or whatnot,
Right.
and they don't have enough information, so they can't communicate on it effectively.
And that's why we have to. That's why we have to get back together and start talking again. And that was, kind of my whole platform. In that, all of us around this table, that's what we want. We want to preserve our government style in this country. We do not want to go away from our Constitution. We do not want to have people convince us that our founding fathers were colonists and the Constitution needs to be thrown out with the bathwater, because we are going to be in such a terrible state if that happens. We have to, risk our lives for our Constitution, just like all of the veterans did, just like they are now doing. We have to take these things more seriously and stop just flipping through our phone and
thinking it's nothing.
Exactly.
Right. And really quick, I heard it said very well this morning, Mike Slater on Sirius XM News. He said they're progressives. We're conservatives. We want to conserve what's beautiful, true, and good. They want to tear it down. That's why they're out there, the protesters, trying to tear down Union Station. They're tearing down statues.
That was ridiculous.
Unbelievable. But Joe Biden could sit at that desk on Thursday, whatever day, and for 11 minutes, and they will bring up January 6th. But what's been happening for 4 years, the BLM, Summer of Love, they've been tearing down, destroying, and they didn't get the treatment. Right, mostly peaceful. But all of those people don't get the treatment that January 6th people got, where their lives are destroyed. Those people, we had Kamala raising money to get them out, remember? She started that fund, and they're still raising money. We want to preserve what's good. We love America. We want to restore it to what they want. They hate America, and they got to tear it down to rebuild it to what they want it to be.
The progressive platform is this continuous, inorganic, very subsidized change, rapid change, and throw out all tradition, throw out all rules, make up the rules. Everything can change. Anything can change. Everything is mutable.
Right.
Exactly. And people think that the conservative means no change. That's wrong.
No, that's
the
correct.
Conservative disposition is organic, natural, unsubsidized change to the future. Steady change.
Because if electric cars are so great, we wouldn't have to subsidize them.
Exactly.
And we're gonna mandate this is the year we're all gonna. No, let it naturally happen.
Yes.
And if it's a good idea, big individual businesses would pick it up. But you have to subsidize it and force it down our throats. And nobody and you live in Illinois, you live in the Midwest, and your car won't start. How are you gonna get to work? Because it's an electric car or whatever. And let it naturally happen, and people will get it, but not force it down our throats. You have to buy it, and we're gonna subsidize it, and that's the difference.
Natural law and what's right and wrong too. The best thing that I think that the best thing for the progressive movement, which again is, it used to be a couple percentage points, and now it seems like it's 50-50. What really propelled it was the fact that we became so divided and polarized, and divide and conquer, and that's exactly what they did to us. And people need to wake up and realize that this hate has to stop, because if it doesn't stop in this country, it will continue to go, and
we're going to destroy each other.
We're going to destroy each other.
We don't need a foreign enemy from within.
That's correct.
Exactly.
And China isn't doing anything.
Right. We have to remember the Chinese culture. I love the Chinese culture. The people. It was amazing before the communists took over in China. The people themselves are generally good people under a dictatorship and control. And that's what we're trying to stop from coming here.
And 3,000 years or so, or the Chinese dynasty, ruined in 70 years. Think about that. We are a much younger country, and we could be ruined in a lot fewer years. And that's exactly what we're up against.
And at the border, we always thought, you guys are racist. You know what, Mexicans, you know what, Hispanic. We know now everybody's coming across the border. And when you find Chinese dissidents coming across the border in
military age.
Right. Yep. And October 7th, they had to parachute into Israel. They're already here just waiting for that phone to go off.
Correct.
And just to say, let's implement whatever. And people coming across the border that really don't like us, that fundamentally these countries, and when there's videos of the hotels that they're going to put the illegals in, the migrants in during the DNC convention, and they show all the languages on the door. Arabic is now included. So it's not about not liking Hispanic brown people coming from South America. Anybody can walk across that border and no one cares. And I always say to these people, these open border people, do you sleep with your front door locked or unlocked? Yeah. You just want to know who's coming in your home. And that's how we feel about America.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. This has been one hell of a podcast. I'm telling you. This has been the longest, most eventful and great discussion that we've had on this podcast since the start of it.
Well, see what happens when you let us out of Illinois.
We're free to talk. You know, we're out of King Pritzker's land, and we get to be who we really are. You know, I don't know, something in the air in Michigan that just makes you speak your mind.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hey, yes,
and sleep really well.
Oh yeah, we've been sleeping like babies. I mean, it's just like a coma. Maybe she put something in our drink. I don't know, but maybe we go to sleep.
It was the lithium.
Right, that's
it was lithium.
Well,
Taylor's lithium.
At the end of the day, Angela is the one who got us all together. Angela finds people. She is the absolute best at that. We were talking about the fact that
the best people.
And you know, she's so gracious, and she and her husband have been such a gracious host to us, and we just owe a lot to Angela.
Very grateful. Just
the
thankful.
bridge between Illinois and Michigan.
Exactly.
The bridge.
It's
We need to get her a shirt that says the bridge.
The bridge.
Yes.
And it's such a time as this that you happen to move up here, buy a house, and find out this is going on. And this is in your town, you're minding your business. And as women, as Esther, it's like such a time as this. And when Esther's uncle came to her and said, you need to do this and speak up for your people, she's like, whoa, wait. What do you want me to do now?
I don't public speak.
Right, I don't do that. I don't do this. And you just have to say, God, give me, you got to say, God, give me the tools. You called me to do this. And he didn't bring you this far to fail. Amanda, you're going to be amazing. She was so nervous yesterday. She did so well. You couldn't tell that you had been a ball of nerves. Just say, God, help me speak. Let me use me to be your voice, and you got this. This is one of many opportunities you're going to have to shed light on that. So I'm so happy to. Don't forget us when you're big and famous.
No, don't forget
and you're on
me.
Tucker Carlson.
No, she needs to stop because I have idolized this woman for many years, watching her in politics and speaking and what she does in Chicago.
Oh yeah,
so
absolutely.
now to be sitting here.
You're not
her,
disappointed that I turned out to just be a crazy old grandma.
I am more amazed. I just knew that you were the absolute best. And now I met Susan, another one. I'm like, where has Angie been hiding her friends?
Right.
I mean, this weekend has been amazing the way that we can just talk about anything. And I mean, it's been, these women are inspirations to me. So I don't feel like I am an inspiration to you in any way.
And we can speak freely because we live in the best country in the entire world, the United States of America. God bless America.
God bless America.
Yes. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Right.
This we call collaborating evidence.
They are not going to stop. They're not going to stop. They're not going to stop until they uncover every lie, every deception, every legal, every web, every immoral action. They are not going to stop. They're not going to stop.
I'm asking simply, do you have any questions about the mushrooms that I grow on my property, my marital infidelities? I'm just asking. I asked, and I'm just asking.
Sir, if you are disorderly, the door is that way. I explained that last month.
Thank the board for bringing us together. There's the door.